Hey guys, so I was watching this video on a YouTuber's channel called Rara, and I stopped about a minute in because the things being said in this review by Gameology for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, even though I haven't got my hands on the game, seems so ridiculous that I stopped Rara's channel, Rara's video, and I decided let me watch it for myself and give you my actual like reaction. So I don't know outside of the first minute what they're gonna say, but it was honestly it was pretty bad from what I saw. Shout outs to Rara. So I'm gonna give my own reaction on this, and then you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. But from what I saw, this is gonna be an absolute shambolic piece of nonsense.
Can you spot what's wrong with these two Dragon Ball Z games? They show the same scene, Goku and Vegeta battling it out in a Utah-looking desert. It's a classic clash that took DBZ into the modern era. And with the new engine, you can likely pick out which one is the newest game, Sparking Zero. But which one is the second newest?
Well, Xenoverse, obviously. I think the implication there is that they don't look that different. I don't know why he's put Burst Limit there. I mean, Burst Limit is a pretty big departure from the... I mean, it's not even in the same style. Burst Limit's not an arena fighter, so I don't know why that's there. The other three, yeah, they look... There's Raging Blast and Xenoverse, but Xenoverse, even though it's done in an arena fighter style, it's an RPG. It's Xenoverse is... I would not class Xenoverse as a typical fighting game. It's even more of a it's less of a traditional fighting game than you would even say an arena fighter is. You fight in it, but it's heavily RPG orientated. So, but I don't know what Burst Limit is doing there, to be honest with you.
Does the gameplay look different? Faster? Smoother? Tighter? Closer to the source material? Besides the graphics, it's almost impossible to tell.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely the problem here is that, and again, I've heard this part, so I've already formed an opinion on this. This guy has not played these games. He's not privy to arena fighters. He put Burst Limit there. For those of you that know what Burst Limit is, you already know it's not an arena fighter. It's closer to Budokai 3. It's closer to the JoJo's game that recently got remastered for the PlayStation 5, I believe. The PS3 JoJo's fighting game. Those games are neither like Tekken or Street Fighter. They sit somewhere in the middle because they look like they're on a 2D playing field, but you can move around in them like Tekken. So even though they don't offer the same movement options as Tekken, but they're definitely not arena fighter. So him putting that there already tells me that he's probably never seen Burst Limit before. He just got a couple of images that he thought looked similar because they were all Dragon Ball.
And that's a problem. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is looking to switch up the DBZ arena fighter formula. But the truth is, it fails to switch up the formula at all.
So with that point, I don't understand how he came to that conclusion. Sparking Zero, as far as I am concerned, is trying to recapture the magic of Tenkaichi 3, which we have had for the last 17 years, basically. That's what Raging Blast tried to do. I think Raging Blast did a decent job, but I would say in terms of recapturing what Tenkaichi was, it didn't hit the mark. Maybe it wasn't trying to do that, but it certainly seemed like that to me. But I don't think it's trying to reinvent the wheel or change anything here. I think it is it's a true successor to the previous Sparking game that we got, which is Budokai Tenkaichi 3. So he's completely off the mark with that. Again, if you're going to get people to review games, make sure they understand the history behind the games.
Been well over 100 titles in the DBZ franchise, from the sublime to the absurd. But when Dragon Ball started using a boilerplate arena fighter template back in...
That's Budokai 1. Budokai 1's not an arena fighter. Budokai 1's not an arena fighter, dude. Look, if you're... Gameology is a massive YouTube channel. They have 2 million subscribers. With that big of an audience, please source somebody that knows what they're talking about. Sparking Zero is a huge release. It's going to be one of the biggest releases this year. It's topping all of the charts in terms of pre-orders. If you're going to review a game that big, you know you're going to have a lot of eyes on you. I'm not saying you have to like Sparking Zero. Quite frankly, I don't care if people like it or not. But if you're going to do a review on it, please make sure you're getting the information correctly. Budokai 1 is not an arena fighter, okay? It's not a traditional fighter either, very clearly, but it's not an arena fighter.
2002, with the introduction of the Budokai series, franchise has felt like it's been stuck in a hyperbolic time chamber.
How does that even make sense? Budokai 1 to 3 is different from Budokai Tenkaichi. What this guy did, it clearly has never played these games, is he saw the Budokai name and he just thought Tenkaichi means that it's the next iteration when it was completely separate. They're two different things.
With over 20 different DBZ arena fighters released in the past 20 years?
For those of you that can't see at the bottom there, after Raging Blast 2 is Xenoverse 2. Dragon Ball Legends is an arena fighter. You think Dragon Ball Sagas is an arena fighter? Have you seen Dragon Ball Sagas? Again, I'm not even going to bother going through all of this because anybody that's played Dragon Ball games can already spot a bunch of inaccuracies. You even put Dragon Ball FighterZ up there, which is just, that's current, right? That is in the tournament circuit. It's a very well-known game. It's sold over 10 million copies. You as a gaming reviewer should not have put that there if you knew what you were talking about. But again, you've proven that you have no idea. Burst Limit is not an arena fight, dude. Jesus Christ.
Sparking Zero promises to be more of an exercise in nostalgia than an actual competitive fighting game.
It's not supposed to be a competitive fighting game. This game has been designed to follow the law rather than conventional balance in a fighting game. They have said multiple times. Jun Furutani said that he wants to recapture the essence of Dragon Ball. And so if you're playing with Krillin, you're not going to be able to go up against somebody like Gogeta without struggling heavily. So we don't want balance in this game. We want chaos. We want Goku and Vegeta and all of the top dogs to be the top dogs. I don't need Goldo to be final part of me. And I'm somebody that comes from playing tournament fighting games, right? Tekken, Street Fighter, and Mortal Kombat. I don't want this game to mirror those games. Now, we can play it competitively, which I plan on doing. I plan on going to tournaments when they are there, hosting tournaments, getting involved with that whole scene, and learning the game at a higher level. But I don't need it to be balanced. If Goldo, Krillin, early characters in the Dragon Ball Z franchise can't keep up with Jiren, Blue Vegeta, Blue Goku, Golden Frieza, that's completely fine. The only time I would ever ask them to touch the game is if there are glitches that are occurring, if moves are not working, if characters are not working as intended. For example, if Golden Frieza was too weak, I'd be like, that's Golden Frieza, why is he that weak? Beef him up a little bit. So it's law accurate. But in terms of balance, like fair balance, first of all, you ain't balancing a roster of 182 characters plus the DLC, however much they're going to have. So again, you haven't been paying attention to the discourse. You should probably pay attention to the discourse before you do a review.
Dragon Ball fans deserve better. Full disclosure, I've been a huge Dragon Ball fan since I stumbled across it on Spanish Access Television when I was 10 years old. I love Dragon Ball. It means more to me than any other animated franchise. I name my cat Piccolo and sometimes dress him up like Lord Beerus. That's why I need Dragon Ball Z to do better.
Being a Dragon Ball fan does not mean you know what you're talking about when it comes to games. I have loads of friends that are Dragon Ball fans. They don't play the games. They're not interested. I have people in my family that are Dragon Ball fans. They don't play the game. You guys have seen family members on here before on my channel that I've had on. They are all fans of Dragon Ball. They don't play the games. So just because you watch the series, and I don't doubt that you watch the series. I mean, everybody has seen Dragon Ball at this point. You know, you'd have to find somebody in a little hole in the wall that has not seen Dragon Ball. But that doesn't mean that you know anything about the game. So I know that that was put in there to make the viewers think that you know what you're talking about. But you've already proven in the first, it's not even been 2 minutes yet, that you don't even know what the difference between a traditional fighting game is, an arena fighter, an RPG, focused fighting game, and whatever the hell Dragon Ball Saga is. That's like that shouldn't have even been released, but that's a story for another day.
Looking back on the past is comforting, but we can't live in it forever. We deserve either a transformative leap forward for the series or a sequel to the only transcendent Dragon Ball game over the last decade. I've played Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, and unfortunately, my fears were confirmed. This is deja vu all over again.
Is this perfection the natural selection or something? Like, who is this guy? Did you actually hire that boy to come and review Sparking Zero? What we wanted was a return to Tenkaichi. That's what people have been asking for 17 years. If it was up to you and people like you, this release of Dragon Ball would not have gone over as it has. We know that this is going to be one of the biggest releases. Hell, I'm willing to bet that this game is going to outsell Dragon Ball FighterZ. and people can hold me to that. I'm strongly in the camp of this game is going to dominate fighting games. Now, it's not going to cause like an issue for Tekken or Street Fighter in terms of stealing players, but I think it's going to have the dominant fan base. I think it's going to have the dominant player base. For how long, I don't know, but I think it's going to hold it for some time. This is the game that we've been asking for, and according to everybody that has played it that I've spoken to personally, they have told me it's Tenkaichi 4. It's what we were waiting for. Now, I'm under no illusions because I know how new games are, and they dumb them down so that newer players can jump in. People would have jumped into this anyway, but they probably want to keep people around. And Tenkaichi 3, when you start to get into the upper ranks, it can get very rough. And this is coming from somebody that plays Tekken online in like the god ranks. Tenkaichi 3 is as rough as it gets when it comes to fighting games, when you're playing somebody that knows what they're doing. So that's what we wanted. We want a return to that. That's what we've been asking for. We didn't want a FighterZ 2, although a FighterZ 2 would be great for that crowd, but this is not the same crowd. FighterZ 2 is for the tournament scene. Of course, there's a lot of casuals that play it. I'm not saying that they don't, but this is the game people have been asking for.
Now, the Sparking Zero graphics are the best they've ever been, and I applaud them for having destructible environments and trees that sway when hit with ki power, but graphics alone do not make a game. When you dissect a match, it's much slower than it looks. Real impact and damage is far apart.
Okay, so firstly, that screen that he was using there was from the original build. We know, having seen the YouTubers that have gone to play this game and various personalities on the internet have said that it's extremely fast. We can see how fast it is, and it's dependent on characters, and it's dependent on what age of the character you're using. So Goku early is very clearly not going to be as fast as Goku late or Super Saiyan Blue Goku, for example. They speed up as they transform, right? So if you take a look at the first build, and then you look at somebody playing as Jiren, it's night and day. Okay, Jiren is extremely fast and extremely hard hitting. So again, he's misrepresenting what the game is. And again, the game is supposed to be lore accurate. So if you have early versions of the game, they're going to play a little bit slower than the later versions of the game. That's just a fact. That's not even up for debate. We can see it with our own eyes.
It doesn't have the back and forth, keep them guessing momentum battles of top fighting games. We're seeing stagnation in the gameplay sphere, where Sparking Zero is extremely similar to the last several dozen Dragon Ball Arena fighters. It feels more like the return of the EA Sports College Football franchise than a new spin on Dragon Ball. Updated graphics with familiar controls.
Yes, it's Tenkaichi 4. We wanted the familiar controls. Now, it's my understanding that they've added an extra layer and they've given new players a new way to play it. But they did the right thing by putting the classic controls in the game. So people like me who grew up playing the Tenkaichi series can jump straight back in. It feels very familiar to us. I still remember the button layout. I still remember how to do combos in the game. So I'm going to be able to jump into Tenkaichi 4 or Sparking Zero and have a good time straight away. They literally appealed to the market that was asking for it. The people from my age demographic, because I'm 32, we were the ones playing these games back in the day. The newer players are going to be able to jump on because it's Dragon Ball. And it's not hard to get into. It's hard to master if they've kept it to the same level that Tenkaichi 3 was. And so they've made everyone happy. What the hell are you talking about?
And I need to talk about those controls, because if you've ever wondered what it's like to be one of the Z fighters, turn elsewhere, because the controls are not great. Dragon Ball is at its best when it delivers on fighting and yelling, and Sparking Zero does have a dedicated yell button. Yelling makes your special bar max out, and then you can pull off bigger moves and Kamehamehas, but it comes at the cost of pacing. Powering up freezes you in place while your special bar fills up, leaving you vulnerable to attack.
Have you never played a fighting game before? If you're doing something that's going to enable you to do a lot of damage to your opponent, there's usually a risk with that. If you don't pick the right moment to power up, or if you don't pick the right moment to shoot off an energy blast, you're going to get punished. What, do you want them to just power up and on frame 0, like instantly be able to move out of the way? Doesn't really make any sense. Now they do have the ability to teleport, although if that wasn't a feature when you're powering up, I would completely understand that, because if you're just spamming power-ups and continuously going into like your ultimate mode, then you're going to be in your strongest form all the time. And so it's going to make the game very unfun to play. So risk and reward, that's called punishment. Again, you play Dragon Ball Fighter, so I really don't understand why this is a hard concept for you to grasp. If you're referencing Street Fighter, Tekken, and all of these traditional fighting games, then you understand that when you're going for something that has a big payoff, there's risk with it usually. Okay, when there's not a big risk and you get a big reward, that's when people start complaining. The game becomes unfun to play and people spam those things. So that's called a check and a balance. Okay, if you played fighting games, you would know that.
Sure, that's part of DBZ, but it still makes the game feel clunky. And here's why. It's because the controls are too complex for casuals, but not technical enough for hardcore gamers.
I was a child basically when Budokai Tenkaichi first came out. I played it with one of my best friends. His name is Fraser, and we would sit and we would play it continuously. And we got good. We weren't the top level players in the UK by any stretch of the imagination, but we were good enough to beat your regular Joe Schmo. Like someone couldn't come to my house and touch me on Tenkaichi. They just couldn't. I was good enough to beat those level. I was not world class like I said, but I was good, and I was a kid. So how is it too complex for casuals? This is one thing that I don't understand with game journalists and the game developers these days. They think casual players, of which I would consider myself, they think casual players are stupid. Not everybody wants to go to tournaments all the time. Not everybody wants to sit there labbing tech. Some people get really good by just jumping online and playing the game as a casual, which is basically what I've done. It's the same thing that I do on Tekken. I don't go into practice mode. I cannot be bothered. I find it boring. I play with people on my stream, and that's exactly what I actually will tell a lie of this. I plan on getting good. But historically, I've been a casual in Dragon Ball fighting games. The same was true for Burst Limit, the same was true for Infinite World, and the same was true for Raging Blast. It's never been a thing where I've been striving to be the best. So it's not too complex for casuals, okay? I understand that maybe we live in an age where games hold your hand too much, but they'll be okay. They will figure it out. It's not the end of the world.
It's been 20 years since Dragon Ball Budokai 1, and transitioning from ground to air combat is still awkward.
It's not an arena fighter, you donut. It's not an arena. That is not Budokai Tenkaichi. They're separate. Jesus Christ. Gameology, man, you got 2 million subscribers. You need to do better than this. I hate even saying that, do better, but this is one of those moments. This is one of those do better moments. Like, legitimately, if there was ever an example, this is it.
Locking on doesn't feel right. Ascending and descending could be streamlined, and it's not always clear if you whiffed a beam because of something you did, or if you just weren't on the right plane. You might even find yourself fighting underwater, but doesn't slow you down or change anything at all.
When you fight underwater, which has been demonstrated in the old Tenkaichi games and in the new ones by way of the YouTubers going out there and testing the game, when you power up, it's much, much slower. So there's a cost to being underwater. Also, one of the reasons that people do things underwater is that much like in the anime when Goku was fighting Frieza and he used the water to mask where he was, that's what people were using it for. At least that's what I did sometimes. People couldn't really see what I was doing and I would shoot an energy blast out of the water. That's kind of what you see people doing with the smoke screens in this game as well. They'll use the smoke screen to shoot an energy blast out. I've got an example of that, of Yamcha doing it to Goku. What is this guy on? You've not played a Tenkaichi game. I don't believe it. I believe you got to play this, and I believe this was your first experience with a Budokai Tenkaichi game. The fact that you don't understand that Budokai 1 to 3 and Infinite World, assuming you even know what Infinite World is, and Burst Limit are a separate series of games, and you're equating them to arena fighters already discredits this entire video. And there's almost not much point in watching the rest if I'm being completely honest, guys. But he's talking so much waffle that I'm actually interested to see where he takes it next.
It just puts on a slightly different filter. The best fighting games, like Street Fighter, Tekken, and Under Night In-Birth, feel like you're mimicking character motion, gathering power, and pushing a button to release it. There's an emphasis on frame advantage, timing, and spacing that can mean the difference between victory and defeat.
I can tell you that's a load of nonsense. Tournament level fighting games often don't mimic how the characters behave in the lore. If they did in Tekken, Kazuya and Jin, well, Jin is kind of doing it, but Kazuya would be running the show, okay? We know that Dragunov is the top character and he's probably going to remain the top character for a long time. They don't mimic what they do in the lore. Tenkaichi or Sparking Zero is doing that, and that's why it feels unbalanced, because Gogeta is not going to lose to Videl. Okay, if this was a tournament game designed in the same way as FighterZ or Street Fighter, Videl would have a good chance of beating Gogeta because they balance it to be that way, which is completely fine, but it's not that game.
Becomes more of a dance at a higher level. Meanwhile, Sparking Zero feels like you're controlling a tank from very far away, and it's frustrating. Even the best fighting games can sometimes devolve into button mashing, but this is so counterintuitive that it borders on parody, which, hey, might be appropriate. Have you ever watched a Dragon Ball fight? It's all fast punches that don't hit, a knockdown, and a beam to finish it. It's awesome to watch. But when you're watching Goku punch so fast that those frames repeat, or is moving faster than your eyes can clock, that's primarily so animators don't have to draw as much. But it doesn't translate well to gameplay. Playing it is a different beast. It sucks all the energy out of something that, in the anime, was deliberately paced that way to save budget.
Hold on. So originally, this guy said that it's not that fast when you're playing it. It's not actually that fast, and now it's too fast, and it shouldn't be that way. Which one is it, mate? And the worst thing is that he's using the footage of early Goku, as early Goku as you can get in Z, right? This is as early as it gets. So which one is it? Is the game too slow and not impactful, or is it too much like the series but it doesn't work because it's not the actual anime? You're contradicting yourself here.
So, what does Sparking Zero have going for it? Well, for one, there's a huge roster. Unfortunately, there's almost no character differentiation.
That is a lie. That is 100% a lie. If you go to Globeco's channel, C-Reacts, Rhyme Style, Biscuit23, any of these channels, they will show you that these characters handle completely differently. They're not even remotely similar. So I don't know where he's getting that from. If you pick Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and then you go to a Grey Ape, it's not the same thing. If you don't want to use that much of an extreme example, if you use somebody like Frieza and then you go over to Broly, they don't play the same. And I've been told this by people that have played the game. They're not alike. There is obviously going to be crossover between some characters. I imagine that Super Saiyan 1 Vegeta is going to play kind of similar to Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta with a variation in his moveset. But as I said, I've already spoken to people that know how to play fighting games. I mean, we already know this guy doesn't. And people that are privy to the Sparking games and how they work. Again, a lot of people see arena fighters and they lump this arena fighter in with all the other ones. And we know that there's a lot more depth in the Tenkaichi games. One of my friends, a recent friend of mine, Grandmaster Hawk, you can go over and look at his YouTube page where he literally coaches people to learn the techniques. Now, some of those techniques I've spotted in this version of Sparking. Not a lot of them, because again, people haven't had a chance to sit down and explore the game. But what this guy's saying is just not true. It is easily disprovable by going and looking at people that have some idea of how to play the game.
A lot of the characters share animations and combos. Functionally, there are probably closer to a dozen or so character types, and that's being generous. With 182 slots, who's champing at the bit to play characters like Nail and Kakunsa? If they're gonna go all out, I want some crazy characters. Bulma in a robot, Taco Shirt Krillin, World Tournament Announcer, Farmer with a shotgun.
Farmer in the shotgun I can get behind, but the other ones, you're saying who's chomping at the bit to play Nail, and then you show us Krillin in a taco shirt. How does Krillin in a taco shirt differentiate from Krillin in his gi? He's just in a taco shirt. It would just be a costume. As a matter of fact, with all the costumes in this game, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's in there, but he's not a different fighter. The farmer of the shotgun is a meme, okay? So it'd be funny if he like killed Raditz and then you could play as him. But outside of that, your suggestions are all nonsense, to be honest with you. I don't know if you're just adding this into the video as fluff. It didn't land. Those were really bad picks. I was waiting for you to say something like, I don't know, a fused version of Baby Vegeta and Goku Black. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, you know, that's different. These were mostly stupid suggestions, and one I would agree with just for memes.
Pay tribute to Toriyama by having one of his self-inserts be playable. There's an aspect of power scaling in Sparking Zero that's supposed to reflect the show's lore. Someone like Super Saiyan Blue Goku hits several times harder than Yamcha, which he well should, but that's a poor substitute for balance.
We don't want it to be balanced, mate. We're not looking for a substitute. We've got loads of fighting games that focus on balance. Tekken, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Uh, well, that's a bad example. Marvel certainly doesn't. Marvel's all over the place. I don't know if he's gonna try to make out like it does. But we don't want it to be that. There's already a Dragon Ball fighting game that has been very, very positively received that is doing its own thing, and it's called Dragon Ball FighterZ, which you referenced earlier. Why do we want another one? We want chaos. I want absolute chaos. And I don't know if this guy doesn't know, but the rest of us that have been paying attention to the discourse will know that in ranked mode and online, they're going to have the DP system, which is going to be there for checks and balances. So you can't have Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta on the same team because it's just too overwhelming. So you'll have the character that has 10 points worth and you'll have a character that has 5 points worth. That makes up 15 DP because you max out at 15. I think that's the number they're going with. And so, you know, if you want to spend your DP in a way where you have loads of characters on the team that have like 2 points or 3 points, you can do that. Or if you want to bank on one character, then you can do that as well. So again, maybe he doesn't know, which I wouldn't be surprised with since he doesn't seem to know much.
Other games represent power differential matchups by showing different moves and impact. Still, because every Sparking Zero character feels the same with only slight differences, the best we can hope to get is the occasional character-specific power-up animation. But exploring a bunch of different martial arts styles, whether it's MMA or drunken boxing, brings life into fighting games.
Have you said you watched Dragon Ball, dude. Where did you see any of this? In Dragon Ball, everyone throws hands in a similar fashion. There's very few deviations from that, right? Like you've got Janemba, for example, or you've got Boo, who fights very differently to everybody else. But in general, the fights take place in similar fashions, just with varying degrees of power. So on one hand, you're like, oh, I've watched Dragon Ball, I'm a massive fan. And then on the other hand, you're saying, I want to see different martial arts like boxing and Wing Chun. Like, what are you talking about? You are playing the wrong game and you're watching the wrong anime, okay? Like, if you want to see all that stuff, go watch Baki, which is great. But this isn't Baki. So, or Kengan Ashura. Go watch one of those shows.
Street Fighter 6 launched with 18 characters. For the most part, they played differently and oozed with unique styles. Grapplers, rushdown characters, zone types, stance types, and a bunch more. Chun-Li has a different philosophy behind her than Zangief and demands a different playstyle. This doesn't really seem to be the case in Dragon Ball, where all characters are slight variations of Goku. Sparking Zero only has 2 archetypes, normal and big. It's not an entirely new mechanic, but it was a bit different to play as Uzaro Vegeta, a giant ape form that moved very slowly and had harder punches. But the controls are so floaty and tanky to begin with, it felt more frustrating than anything. So once you've played one character, you've basically played them all.
Do you know what? I haven't got my hands on the game yet, and I'm 99% sure you're talking shit based on the people that actually know how to play fighting games having played this. But I'm going to remember that they said that, and I'm going to go check it out for myself. Because, you know, you always got to check things for yourself. Now, I think the people that I've spoken to, they're credible sources, and there's definitely going to be overlap. In a game of 182 characters, there's going to be overlap. But saying there's basically two character types, that's a load of nonsense. And you can already see that when you're watching the gameplay. You can see it. But again, I understand, you know, he doesn't play fighting games, so because he's just looking at this, he's probably seeing what, you know, if I showed this to my mum, she'd be like, oh, that's Goku, and that's Goku, and that's Goku. We obviously know that that's not Goku, that's, you know, person X, and that's person Y, and they're playing very differently. But to somebody that doesn't play fighting games, least of all a Dragon Ball game, they're going to react this way. So again, you can hear the inexperience, which is fine if he would just tell the truth, and Gameology would get somebody on here and knows what they're talking about.
Dragon Ball Z games might be all about fighting and yelling, but Dragon Ball as a whole is so much more. And the games have a hard time bringing that sense of fun and confidence to the forefront. Goku himself was heavily influenced by Journey to the West. With his monkey tail, super strength, and martial arts abilities, as well as his mischievous nature, Goku is a modern-day Sun Wukong. As a matter of fact, Sun Wukong translates to Son Goku in Japanese, and the first Dragon Ball series especially reflects that. It's far more grounded and focused on exploration. There are moments along the way that would be perfect for a new game. For all the talking cats and horny sidekicks Goku might come across, there's a sense of world building that's missing when it's conveyed solely through punching.
Yeah, but this is a fighting game, okay? The Dragon Ball franchise has spawned countless games. Countless games. Okay, you can go play Legacy of Goku, or you can go play a Budokai game or a Budokai Tenkaichi game. Because remember, Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi are two different things. There's RPGs, and I think a Dragon Ball game done as an RPG is probably the way to go. I don't think a Dragon Ball game done as a Sparking Zero game is primarily what you want to focus on. Although you can have Dragon Ball characters in this game, and I do hope they add them. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to lose any sleep if they don't, because this is a fighting game, and Dragon Ball, if you look at it as a whole, was definitely more in the comedy sector and like going on like silly adventures and whatnot. It wasn't until the Red Ribbon Army and then I guess Piccolo, and when Goku became a proper teenager and went to marry Chi-Chi, is when it got more into the martial arts side. But for a long time, it was very comedic. Dragon Ball Z upped the levels immediately because Raditz came to Earth, and then they told us Goku's an alien, and we were like, what the hell? And it started this whole other tone and theme of the series. So if we're talking fighting games, they've made the right choice, because Dragon Ball Super goes into godhood. They've got Dragon Ball GT characters in there that we were all waiting for, which is the peak of the original Super Saiyan form. So this guy, again, you're looking for the wrong game, mate. Okay, I could suggest you some Dragon Ball games, although you seem to think Dragon Ball Legends and Dragon Ball Sagas are the same as Sparking games. So I don't know, it might fall on deaf ears.
The anime hinges on big moments in relationships, like escaping the Red Ribbon Army with Bulma, or meeting Yamcha for the first time, or just how many bonds were formed during the first World Martial Arts Tournament. This game strips out all the context for these deep, meaningful friendships that the Z family is built on. I don't fault Sparking Zero for being one thing or turning it into a gameplay type, but Dragon Ball is many things. You might think, well, Sparking Zero has a dedicated story mode, but at this point we've seen it. Dragon Ball games tread the same ground until it's paved over.
Yeah, but again, you're clearly not paying attention, because in all these other screens you've grabbed, one's from the anime, and the other two are, one's from a Budokai game, and I think that one up there is from Kakarot. Those games all tell the story of Dragon Ball Z, right? Kakarot goes from beginning to end. Same with the Budokai games. But with Sparking Zero, they've added the what if battles, and they've added custom battles, which we can go online and we can play. So I can play your custom battle, for example, if you made one where Raditz kills Goku, or I don't know, Vegeta turns Super Saiyan instead of getting his tail cut off by Yajirobe, or Frieza kills Goku, or Frieza never kills Krillin, for example. And the story gets changed through that. I don't see the problem with that either. And also, if you're introducing Dragon Ball to a whole new audience, which Sparking Zero is going to be doing, there's going to be a lot of new people that have never had a chance to really play the Sparking games. They're going to get a chance to play it, which is very exciting for me, because the Sparking series, the Tenkaichi series, is one of the greatest fighting games in my opinion. And I think it's a big shame that the current generation of fighting game players never got a chance to really sit down and play it, because they probably don't own a PS2, right? A lot of them are either from the PS3 or PS4 era at this point. So it's going to be good for them to sit there and experience it. But Sparky Zero went one step further and it added what ifs. So if you make certain changes, then they'll get to see Dragon Ball in a lens that we never even got to see it. So yeah, you're talking out your ass, mate.
The Game Boy games, Legacy of Goku, retold the Z story, but had Goku punching wolves. Kakarot retold the Z story in its entirety. Xenoverse retold the story with some what-if and time travel elements, and included a somewhat lacking create a character.
What? Did you even play Xenoverse? It was not some what ifs. Okay, Xenoverse went above and beyond. I haven't seen a game this supported since World of Warcraft. There are so many branching stories, to the point that they're still supporting it. They supported it all the way through FighterZ, and they supported it up till now, and they're going to be supporting it going forward. Okay, so, and the character customization in Xenoverse is actually really good. It's not for me. I like playing my traditional Dragon Ball fighting games. I'm not interested in creating characters in Dragon Ball. I want to play as my favorites from the show. But I think Xenoverse did a fantastic job in allowing people to make their own heroes up and explore that side of Dragon Ball and get to explore the untold stories. And a lot of those characters have moved over into other parts of Dragon Ball. We know Fu had a part to play in Xenoverse, and he has a part to play in Heroes, as well as some characters from like the Demon Dimension and whatnot. In terms of character customization, they did a fantastic job on Xenoverse, and the support this game has gotten is generational at this point. So I don't think this guy has played any of these games whatsoever. Gameology, it's really not hard to find Dragon Ball fans to review your game. Hey, I'll do it for you. I'll do it. I've actually played these games. Down in that drawer over there, I've got these games. Okay, I've got games you ain't even heard of. Okay, now I know that you guys just pulled this off YouTube. You found random clips. You gave this poor guy a script. He put his neck out there, and now when people see this, however many people see it, are gonna go, it sounds like nonsense, because it is. You're just talking a whole bunch of nonsense.
Sparking Zero also has a story mode, but it'll be thin because we've seen it before. Where are the well thought out stories that challenge the player's perceptions rather than regurgitate it? Heck, where's the story of Dragon Ball pre-Z? How far will we get in the manga?
Wait, hold on. Doesn't Sparking Zero allow you to play as the villains, which is not something that we see in Dragon Ball story modes? Isn't there a chapter with Goku, Black, and Jiren? Right, you get to play as, I think, Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Jiren, maybe Trunks, and Goku Black, if I'm remembering correctly. But either way, you get to play as Goku Black, so you're going to get to play it from their perspective. And they've already said that they're crafting it a bit differently to how we usually see it. It's being done by playing characters and playing them in their own episodes, which is not the way they do it usually. Usually you just follow the story through, like, and you play the main character that's going to win. So you'll play Goku or Gohan. Every now and then you might get to play Vegeta. That's not what they're doing in Sparking. So again, I don't know how long you got with the game, but they didn't give you long enough.
Will we get manga-only characters like Moro? Why not play through some of the less loved but still incredible movies like Super Android 13? Or have Janemba's Hell as a stage? What about a baseball mode? There's so much ancillary content in the Dragon Ball.
Look, a baseball mode would be fun. Okay, I'm not going to lie, it would be fun. If they want to add that as a mini game, I'd probably support it and buy it. But asking for manga characters when they haven't even been animated seems a little bit short-sighted. For as much as people want them in the game, and don't get me wrong, playing as Ultra Ego Vegeta would be a dream come true. However, if I was in charge of Dragon Ball, I would want the characters to be animated first so I can maximize on their range. And what I mean by that is, yeah, a lot of people read the Dragon Ball manga. I've read the Dragon Ball manga. You watching this, a Dragon Ball fan probably have, but there's a lot of people that watch anime only, and more people are going to be paying attention to anime only content. They'll be posting clips on YouTube, word will get around, they'll be like, oh, have you seen this new Dragon Ball show, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of people that, when I was watching Dragon Ball Super, had no idea what it was. They didn't even know what manga was. They just knew what Dragon Ball was. So if you want to maximize on sales, you wait for them to animate these things, and then you drop them in. That's why the DLC for this game is centered around Dragon Ball Daima and Dragon Ball Superhero, because I imagine this game was being developed when Superhero is out, and Dragon Ball Daima is dropping on the official release date of this game, not during early access. So just from a business side of it, you wouldn't drop the manga characters now. Like I said, if they gave me Ultra Ego Vegeta now, I'm not going to complain, but I'm not blind to the logic here. I wouldn't do that if they were my characters. It wouldn't make any sense.
World that is ripe for an adaptation that unfortunately will be left out for the greatest hits. And it could be a better love letter and feel like less of a money grab if they were acknowledged. Instead, we just get Frieza blowing up Krillin for the millionth time. In my opinion, Dragon Ball FighterZ is a much better use of the license and still has a robust, dedicated fan base after 6 years.
So first he says that he wants them to try new things. What are those robust ideas and these stories that challenge people? And then he references Dragon Ball FighterZ, which again, I think is a phenomenal game, but is a traditional fighting game. This game is in line with Marvel, okay? This game really came out and filled the void of Marvel. It's not doing anything groundbreaking. It's not. It took what the anime fighting game was, and I would say it got it to as close as to perfection at the time that you could. It blew everyone away. It did fantastic. I'm very happy for it. I hope they do a FighterZ 2, because although I don't like playing it, I really enjoy watching it. But you're contradicting yourself. Like, what do you want? Do you want a fighting game? Do you want an RPG? Do you want, I don't know, a GTA style Dragon Ball game? Like, you're all over the place with what you're asking for here. Personally, what it sounds like is maybe you're related to that imbecile Perfection, the Natural Selection, or maybe you were just paid to give a controversial take to garner views, even though this video didn't do great for a channel with 2 million subscribers. I can see why. Like, this is a really, really poor, all over the place review that really makes no sense. You're not even following your own line of logic. It is all over the place.
Ultimately, a sequel to that series would be a better overall direction for the franchise. It's had just one main release and a handful of DLC over the last 6 years, and is a fresh take on the series, which is weird considering it's a 2D fighter. It's fast-paced and competitive, so much so that it had a presence at the EVO tournament for 5 of the last 6 years. There are 44 characters, and for the most part, they play differently and include some fighting game archetypes that aren't present in arena fighters. It's relatively balanced with only a few insanely OP characters, but they literally just released a patch for that.
Then they released a patch that made the game bonkers. Like, the game is just insane now because it's on its way out, basically. It's had a good run. Dragon Ball FighterZ' run was phenomenal, and I still enjoy watching it, but this guy's review, he just sounds like he wanted the Dragon Ball FighterZ, and he's very salty that he didn't get one.
And the graphics are still gorgeous. It needs more stages, and the menus are clunky, but that's true for most Dragon Ball games. Some moments that evoke nostalgia.
I love how you can tell he's a fanboy for this game, because he's like, he criticizing it, but he goes, nah, they all do that. But if he sees something in Sparking Zero, it's like, I'm shooting Krillin for the 100th time. Oh, man.
Like Gohan and Goku's iconic father-son Kamehameha would be a whole-ass level in a Budokai game. Why can't the Budokai series just give the fans what we all came to see from the jump? FighterZ does the same thing in special moves that only last a few seconds. There's so much more to mine there that going back to arena fighters for another release feels like a step backward.
Have you seen the pre-orders for this game, dude? What are you talking about? This part of the segment was called, or this particular segment was called, Give the Dragon Ball fans what they want. They've given us what we want. Have you not seen the overwhelming positive reaction that this game has received? This is what people have been asking for. Have you not seen the way people reacted when they first announced it? Afro Senju almost had his dick pop out his pants. He fell out of his chair so fast.
Yo, bringing this shit back is crazy. Whoa! Bro! Ain't no fucking way! This is Budokai Tenkaichi 4! Bro! I'm gonna pass out! Bro! Explain to me how you think you can just do that? Who the fuck said you could do that?
Dragon Ball games have been more popular than ever right now.
Bro! Is my out?
I remember when I saw it and I was like, whoa. I was like, what are they really doing Tenkaichi 4? If I could go into my group chats and go back years and years, I'm telling you, you would find me saying, where the hell is Tenkaichi? Where the hell is Tenkaichi? So much so that I wanted another working copy of Tenkaichi 3 because my original one stopped working. You know, scratches on the PS2 disc, you lend it to the wrong person. And you can't get it in the UK for anything less than like £80 to £120. It's very expensive over here. I had to go to Japan. Now, I've got a Japanese PS2. I had to go all the way to Japan. I didn't go there to get Tenkaichi exclusively, but I was in Okinawa. I saw Tenkaichi 3. I bought 3 copies of that. 3 copies. I gave one to my brother, one to my friend Fraser for old time's sake, and I kept one for myself. And it only cost me a couple hundred yen in Japan, which was mind-blowing to me because of how expensive it is over here. But this is the game people have been asking for. So if they listen to people like you, they get whatever they announce would not be doing as well as this. Even if it was a FighterZ 2, I'm willing to put everything in my bank account now. FighterZ 2 would do phenomenal. I think it would be up there. The Dragon Ball fighting franchise has sold like over 60 million at this point, I believe. Close to 60 million, right? It's outsold some of the biggest traditional fighters. Some traditional fighters like Street Fighter, I believe Street Fighter is lagging behind the Dragon Ball fighting franchise in overall sales. Even with that, I do not believe FighterZ would be able to beat Sparking Zero in terms of pre-orders. This is the game that people have been clamoring for. Now, I think FighterZ is going to do very, very well if they announce another one after this. The hype around Dragon Ball is going to be at a fever pitch. And FighterZ offers something completely different where I'm like, yeah, well, that's a completely separate game. So you can release that and it doesn't feel like Dragon Ball is being oversaturated. At this point, you would not release another Dragon Ball Arena Fighter because it's just going to be forgotten about. Nothing's going to be able to compete with Sparking Zero. But this was the move. Whoever made that decision at Bandai Namco, whichever development team made that decision, they made the right call. If they had listened to somebody like you, we would just be eating L's right now.
The games industry has a bad habit of releasing rinse and repeat sequels, and we tend to reward it by buying every new sports game or Call of Duty year after year. At least COD has a different story every time, but Dragon Ball still retreads familiar ground. Want to see Goku sacrifice via special beam cannon in the Saiyan saga? Here it is, but you can switch to a first-person camera this time.
Yeah, but people like it. So if people like it, like, no one's complaining here. I would understand if people were like, oh my god, they're doing it again. But no one's saying that. I haven't seen that anywhere. You might have those fringe weirdos on the internet like Perfection that are saying dumb things, but no one's complaining, dude. Like, no one is. This is what people wanted. Yeah, I've grown up watching Piccolo shoot Raditz and Goku a billion times, and I would like to see it a billion times more. No matter how many consoles come out, they can recreate that scene 100 times. They can show it from different angles. I'm not mad at it. Would I like an original story the way Xenoverse told some original stories in this game? Yeah, sure. Why not? But I ain't mad at them redoing this, especially because, again, it's been 17 years since we got a Tenkaichi game. This is the game all of the Dragon Ball fans from that period are asking for. I don't see the problem.
Ultimately, Dragon Ball needs something more artful in execution. Whatever the Dragon Ball equivalent to Slowclap's 2021 game Sifu, a 2D, 3D phase-shifting game like Pokken Tournament, or maybe something tight and technical with balanced, ranged, and melee combat, like Armored Core 6. According to Bandai sales data, the Dragon Ball franchise has experienced diminishing returns since 2020. It requires innovation if it's going to continue at this clip.
No, you're wrong actually, and I would encourage you to go and look at how this game is doing on pre-orders. It's doing phenomenal right now. So this is the road they need to go down. This was the correct road. This is the road people have been asking them to go down. We've been getting a lot of random Dragon Ball games over the years. Dragon Ball The Breakers, whatever the hell that was. Yeah, they experimented with something, I commend them, but nothing's going to hit like a Sparking game. And I'd say second to that would probably be FighterZ. FighterZ has solidified itself as a franchise, I would say as a game that is worthy of having a franchise. But nothing was going to hit like this. 17 years people have been asking for a game. And then you drop it and you say, here's also 182 characters in a day and age where we are lucky to even get half of that for games that return. When they said that there's going to be a roster absolutely packed of characters, I was like, yeah, they're probably going to miss like 100 characters. We'll have to pay for them. I already accepted that in my mind because of where we are in the gaming industry, and they gave us everything. You realize that they are actually just missing a couple key characters. They are missing the Great Ape forms, because in Tenkaichi 3 they gave everybody that has a tail a Great Ape. They're missing Faja, I believe. They're missing what's Bojack's the woman in the Bojack movie. I can't remember her name. Forgive me. It begins with Z, I think. They're missing the cooler soldier, the one began Salazar or something like that. I can't remember his name. Salazar, is that the guy in Pirates of the Caribbean? You know what I'm talking about? The guy with like the sword arms in the cooler film. They're missing King Vegeta, and of course they're missing Super 17. Outside of that, Tambourine, a couple of Dragon Ball characters, outside of that, they got everyone. So there really isn't anything to complain about on that front, okay? If they took advice from you, dude, I don't even need to say at this point, but it would help if you actually played Dragon Ball games.
So why go back to the well for another nostalgia fest? Being the official Tenkaichi 4 could be the kick in the pants the franchise needs. But I think a new, exciting direction is the way to go. This game will no doubt sell millions on name recognition alone, but I think its impact will quickly fade. I don't think we'll talk about it the same way years after release.
It's not going to sell millions on name recognition alone. It's going to sell millions because it looks like a phenomenal game. Do you know how many Dragon Ball games come out? You just contradicted yourself again. This guy just said that Dragon Ball games have been on a downward spiral and they haven't been selling as much. So they don't just sell on name recognition alone. Clearly, there has to be something special, especially when there's so many. The market is going to be saturated with Dragon Ball games to the point where people are going to be like, I don't want to play anymore. They're not really saying anything worthwhile. The reaction to this has been overwhelmingly positive, with only very fringe individuals complaining online about it. And I'm one of those people that looks for things to critique. I look at things and I'm sitting here like, they really basically covered everything. They really did try to cover everything. Content-wise, roster-wise, gameplay-wise, animation-wise, they covered everything. They even gave us the original control scheme so I can jump back in and just play like I was playing yesterday. You have contradicted yourself in this video about 10 times. It's actually hilarious. The thing that makes me laugh the most is that this video went into editing afterwards and you didn't listen to it and go, I need to re-record this. This isn't, I'm just contradicting myself over and over again.
I hope I'm proven wrong, though.
You will be.
A lot of people look back fondly and call Tenkaichi 3 a high watermark, and they deserve to be happy too. One of my friends is really excited about this game and couldn't give a flying nimbus about the game style being played out. I hope DBZ Sparking Zero is more than the same thing in prettier packaging. I hope it outdoes itself and is more fun than I got from the matches I played. Maybe it'll exceed expectations, but mine are very tempered. In the meantime, I'll be open for a better use of the license. Just saying.
This was an awful review. This was an awful review. He clearly didn't understand anything about the game. I doubt he played more than a couple matches. I doubt he's played the original Tenkaichi games. I believe that he plays FighterZ because he demonstrates to have a massive boner for it. I don't know if he really understands fighting games like that. This sounds like he was given a script, if I'm being completely honest. I don't mind people critiquing stuff. Like, far be it from me to have a problem with people critiquing stuff. No issue with that whatsoever, but his critiques just didn't make any sense. He contradicted himself 100 times. It just over and over again, to the point where I was like, I can't even take this seriously anymore. I'm surprised I got through it. Let's have a look at the comments, because I imagine they're not going to be very pleasant. It's like he's saying Street Fighter is bad because you do the same thing in Mortal Kombat. How did this dude get 2 million subscribers? I've never once in my life seen this channel. Bro, this is a direct sequel to Tenkaichi 3. It's not meant to switch up a formula that's perfect already. Dude, just yapping, just put my friends. I love that. Someone said that to me on my video the other day. I started cracking up. They said to me, put the fries in the bag, bro. And they must have thought I was yapping. That line is so funny. I'm an avid player of fighting games, particularly Street Fighter and Tekken. People who like those games and people who like Sparking Zero aren't the same target demographic. This video ain't it. That's half true. I would say that those, although they're not the target demographic, those people that play Street Fighter and Tekken 100% will be playing Sparking Zero. Like I said, I talked to a lot of tournament players. I used to be a tournament player myself. There's definitely a crossover with Sparking. Sparking and the Tenkaichi series in general, that's a franchise that is looked at very fondly in the Arena Fighters like topics. I know Arena Fighters get looked down on a lot, and it seems to be changing. Especially with that Bleach fighting game coming out, they're starting to win me over. Bro put out a review without even understanding the point of the game itself. The fact you're comparing it to a competitive fighting game should be enough to invalidate your whole review because of the sheer incompetence of a comparison that shows. The older Budokai games were never balanced. Some characters were objectively way stronger than others, and that was by design. The game allowed you to play memes like Mr. Satan, but also honest in what that character's strength was in the show. You could challenge yourself by playing characters that weren't top tier, or you could fight your friends with meme characters hoping to win to humiliate them forever. The point of these games has always been fun, not competitiveness. It's also nice to see how the power levels of the characters are actually consistent with the anime and manga. Still, if you take any character from Street Fighter, Super Smash, etc., and you randomly put it against another, you'll likely end up with a fair, semi-balanced fight. The beauty of old Dragon Ball games is that it doesn't happen there. Obsessive balancing is what kills fun in casual games. Just look at Helldivers. That's why Budokai was always a ton of fun with friends, but never make reviews again. This is supposed to be your job and you can't even make proper comparisons. Jesus Christ, no wonder no one takes game journalists seriously nowadays. Very true. Lack of innovation, bro. You really gonna make that the thesis of your review when this is the first fighting game that's not SmackDown vs Raw where you can create custom storylines and matches? Very good point. Unsubbed because what the fuck, bro? What the fuck is this? Game ain't even out yet. Terrible take. L video. $100 well spent. Who else is waiting for the 7th? Gameology resorting to rage bait instead of uploading actual good content. Bros complain about the shit that everyone wanted. Devs never intended to have all those things that you're complaining about. It's supposed to be mindless. I don't even think it's supposed to be mindless. I just think it's supposed to be lore accurate. Like, we're supposed to go in there and if, you know, it's Broly versus Goldo, it's going to be a very long day for Goldo. But if you're the Goldo player, you can beat the Broly player. Like the other guy said, you can dunk on your friends for eternity. And that's the fun in these games. And the channel just lost my respect. Also hard to believe this man is a Dragon Ball fan when he calls Key yelling. Bro really just crashed out for views with one of the dumbest takes I've ever heard in my life. He really compared Sparking Zero to Street Fighter. There's no good comments here. 82% dislike. There's no way the game ain't out yet and people are trying to drop some bullshit. They're ratioing the fuck out of this video. Yeah, I mean, I don't need to read beyond that. You do not speak for the Dragon Ball community. This made me pre-order the Ultimate Edition. Dude's not a real Dragon Ball fan. Yeah, there's no good comments in here. I don't think. I'd be very, very hard pressed to find some. Even if I click on newest, Budokai isn't even an arena fighter. That really sells it. Gameology, I don't know if you did this for views. It clearly didn't work for a channel with 2 million subscribers to get 21,000 views. Let's see what you generally get. Your other videos, so you've got other videos that seem to do better. This only got 23,000. Your previous one got 52, 89, 256. So you clearly didn't do this for views. You're just ill-informed. I don't really know what to say, to be honest with you. Massive L by Gameology. You know, I've watched Gameology before. These are the videos I usually watch from Gameology. That's usually when they've got the male martial artist and this woman on there, the one that cosplays Chun-Li. I think those videos are pretty good. But outside of that, I don't really watch Gameology. I didn't even really know they did reviews like that. I thought they just did comparisons to fighting games in terms of like martial arts. But yeah, take that person's advice. Don't ever do a review again. I've got no problem with people criticizing things, but Jesus Christ, dude. Like, if you wanted to demonstrate how much of a non-Dragon Ball fan you are, you did it perfectly. So, guys, let me know what you think of this video in the comment section below. I thought it'd be quite funny to show you guys, and I'll catch you very soon. Take care. Peace.